So yep. So make sure you guys know 2 homework due tonight. 4344. 2 homework due on next Tuesday. 51 and 52. Chapter 43 and 44 is where we talk about conics section. Where we talk about circles, parabola, ellipses, and hyperbola. And then chapter 5 is where we do the exponents and log. And once we finish chapter 5, you will have a midterm. Okay, I will show it to you. Let me share my screen to you. So your midterm, let me show you the syllabus so you guys will get that midterm. So your midterm is where we finish chapter 5. Where was my friend? Here, there you go. So your midterm is chapter 2, all the way to the first day of class till chapter 5, and then we include 9.1. 9.1 is very easy. It's like elimination substitutions, like solving a system of equations. But I just want to point out to you guys, please put this back into your calendar, to remind yourself that it's on Tuesday, October 13th. It's a take-home test. Then you due on Wednesday, October 14th at noon, and that is no extra time. If you want to do, like, if you send to me 10-15 minutes later at 12:10 or 12:15 on Wednesday, I'm fine with it. But I'm not gonna be like 4, 5, 6 hours later on. No, your test has to be your test will be emailed to you. So with your college email. So I just want to point out today again. So on Tuesday, October 13th, around noon or 11:30, you will get an email from me and from the college email. Check it. Otherwise, it is posted in D2L. So go to the school website. It's posted there. What you do here is, once you got your test, it's up to you. Either if you have a printer, you can print the test out and do it. If you do not have printer, or you do want to print your test out, you can write on not a piece of paper but multiple papers. So take like 5, 6. You need at least 5 to 6 pieces of papers, and write it out. Make sure you have your name on it. Make sure that you have the numbering, the page, everything in the right place. I do not want you to do question 1 first, and then question 5, and then question 8, like jumble the whole thing around. So it's going to be very difficult for me to grade it. Make sure that and those people who use piece of papers, make sure don't squeeze everything into 3 lines. Okay, I can guarantee you that, especially with this section 4.3 and 4.4, you need at least 1 page to do 1 question. So if you can look, like last time I told you that this one is going to be 12 points. 12 points means you're going to spend the whole page on it. So do not squish everything into 1 tiny little spot. It's very difficult for me to grade. So what we do here is, once you finish the test, you have to scan it to me. I only accept PDF form. So either you have a scanner at home, use a scan. I don't accept picture. I know some of you will, oh, I'm going to take a picture like a selfie. No, and then send it to me. I will reply back to you saying that I do not take this picture form. So make sure you do the, if you don't have a scanner at home, there are some apps in your phone that is free. One of them is called Cam Scanner. So please make sure you guys, or some other, I know there are a few more. Make sure if you haven't used this device before, haven't scanned a paper before, haven't done anything before, I already told you on the first day of class, please go and scan 3 documents and send it to me. And then I can reply back to you, say, yes, this is good. So those students who still haven't, because by Wednesday, October 14th at 12 o'clock, you guys will be panicked. Oh my God, how do I use my scanner? Oh, this is not working. You guys are panicked, and then you guys doesn't know what happened. So that's the reason why I tell you right now, do it now. Just don't want you to wait till the last minute. Then you guys will panicking and what's going on. So if you guys still haven't scanned anything yet before, scan it to me and send it to me so I know what's going on. Does anyone have any questions on your midterm here? This is very important. So it's going to be on October 13th. So it's like 3 weeks from now. Okay. So it does cover everything from the first day of class till chapter 5 and then 9.1. Everyone so good with your midterm? And then your final is on December. Yep, questions you have, anyone? All good here. All right, so if you do have questions, let me know. Again, scan your first time using scanner or cam scanner or whatever device, send it to me. You scan and send it to me. All right, today we are concentrating on 4.3 and 4.4. So let's talk about 4.3. Okay. Anyone have any questions on 4.3? So we talk about 4.3 first. So questions on 4.3. Okay. First thing I'll point out to you here is I doesn't know you guys know my notes. So some of you, mostly you go to under material, go under content, you will get what we call as instructor notes here. Then you will get the 4.3 and 4.4 notes. If you click on it, you get my notes. And if you look at all the examples underneath here, these examples are all coming from the book or from your homework. So if you are stuck on some questions, actually there will be a question, there will be something similar to that in your notes here. So that would be something that I would recommend if you figure out what's going on. So questions on 4.3 that you guys have. This is a Conics section. Anyone have questions on 4.3? So far I have. Anyone? You guys are quiet today. 26, good. Now, what is the difference between like 26 is also in my notes, which is on, which is 6. Okay, so it's very similar to 6, but we'll go through it again. Now, what is the difference between the 4.3 and 4.4? Okay, 4.3 is where your conic sections, everything is at the origin. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of conic section here. So a circle, you guys know circle. So a circle is where you have a radius here, and let's say your center is at origin, then your formula is gonna be x squared plus y squared equals to r squared. So everything with, so this is 4.3. But if your center is moved to a location, you still have a radius, to hk, then your formula will change your x and y. So your x will become x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. They're all negative, equals to r squared. So that means that if your hk are in quadrant 1, then this will be -3. Let's say this is 3 and 4. Then this will be -3 and -4. So it's kind of like your parabola. That we learned that you have hk, all your sign will be switched in this case. Okay, so this will be on 4.4. So what is the difference between 4.3 and 4.4 is 4.3, everything is on the origin. But once you move your center or your vertex into another position, then it's 4.4. So this is circle. Now, parabola is what you guys learned in chapter 3.1. But the parabola that you learn in this case, it can be open sideways. Because in chapter 3.1, your parabola that you have is either open upward or open downward. But in this section, the parabola can open to the right and it can open to the left. So these are all called parabolas too. So that's the reason why that when you guys do the parabola, you have to watch carefully which one got square. Okay. Now, so if your y squared equals to 4px, this is the formula that we'll be using, and x squared equals to 4py. So this is how you figure out that this is a parabola, is because your squaring only belongs to one of these variables. Okay, so if you have y squared, that this parabola is open sideways. If you have an x squared, then the parabola is open up down. So you have to figure out. How do we know they are open left, right? It depends on your p. If your p is negative, then it is on the left side. Same thing happens here. If your p is negative, you will go downwards. Okay. If your P is positive, then you will go either to the right or up. Watch carefully, you can only get one square here. Okay, and this is all in 4.3. What happens to that means what happens in 4.3 here is that your vertex is at the origin. Your vertex is at the origin. 0, 0. Okay. On 4.4, your vertex will be in HK. And what happens when you have HK is the same thing as last time. Your X will be minus H, your Y will be minus K. So if you have that, then you will have Y minus K squared equals to 4px minus H. Or it can be X minus H squared equals to 4py minus K. So parabola is very important, and for parabola you need two features here, three actually. You need to know your vertex, you need to know your focus point, and you need to know your directrix. Okay. If you have if you have an opening on the left here, your focus point is always inside your parabola. Okay, so if you have a parabola open sideways, your focus point is going to be inside here. Same thing with those. And the distance from your focus point to your vertex is P. That's the reason why that when you do a parabola, you have to know or you have to find P. Because once you know P, you will got your focus point. And then the directrix is actually a line that separate is on the is not found on your parabola. So if your parabola is open to the left, then it's right here on the right side. If your parabola is open to the right, then it's on the left. Same thing happens for this case. Your parabola is open upward, your directrix is down. Same thing, downwards is up. So it's kind of like opposite. And again, the distance from the vertex to the directrix is also P. So that's the reason why you need to know, when you do parabola, you need to know your vertex, your focus point, and your directrix. And your directrix is always given as an equation of x equals 2 or y equals 2. Remember when you guys do my asymptote in the previous section, you don't give me 3 and 5, right? You give me x equals to this and y equals to that. Same thing happens. X equals to or y equals to. It depends on your directrix. If a directrix going up and down, then it's x equals to a number, because it's a vertical line. If you're going horizontal, then your directrix will be y equals to something. So make sure you guys know which one is x equals to, which is y equals to. I'm giving you a general kind of background what is all these things is. Okay, so you guys know what's going on. Next is ellipse. So ellipse is like what is the thing about ellipse? Like how the Earth go around how the Earth goes around the sun, or any planets go around, is an elliptical way. So the ellipse is very tricky. The formula is this: x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals to 1. That has to be always equals to 1. Okay. Or it can be x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals to 1. So these two are for 4.3. How do we know which one is which? Look at your numbers. Okay. For ellipses, your a has to be always greater than b, has to be greater than 0. It means that these two numbers has to be positive because of the squaring. You need to make it positive, and your a has to be greater than b. So how do you know what kind of ellipses we have? You're looking at your, which one is longer. So which one is your A is. So for example is this A is underneath the X. So the ellipse will go on the X-axis. That means it goes sideways like that. Okay. Your A here for the other one is above the Y. That means your ellipses will go will go up and down on the Y-axis. So this is usually how I can tell. I didn't even look at anything. I can tell you that. So so you look at A. In this case, A has to be bigger than B. So you look at these two numbers. Which one is the biggest one? If this is bigger than that, then it's on the X-axis. If this is bigger than, your A here is bigger than B on the Y, then it's on the Y-axis. This is 4.3. So what happens to 4.4? 4.4 in this case is the same thing is your center. Okay, this is talk about your center here. So in 4.3, your center is at origin, 0, 0. But what happens if your center is not at the origin, is at a location HK? Then it's the same thing that we just did on all this using 4.3. Your X will be minus H, your Y will be minus K. So you will get X minus H squared over A squared plus Y minus K squared over B squared equals to 1. This one will go on the X-axis. And then if you switch this around, X minus H squared over B squared plus Y minus K squared over A squared equals 1. Then this one will go on going up, down. Good. The important thing about ellipses, last time, circle, the important thing is your center and your radius. So if you know your center and your radius, you should know your equation of a circle. For parabola, you need to know your vertex, your focus point, and your directrix. Then you should know your parabola equation. For ellipse, you need to know quite a few things. You need to know your center. Where's the center at? Okay. You also need to know your vertices. Vertices is actually a plural form for vertex. And you also need to know your foci. Foci is the plural form for focus point. So you got 2. So center is right over here. Where is the vertices? The vertices is at the end point of your circles here. Okay, so these are your vertices here. And your focus point is somewhere in the middle. This is your focus point. Foci, they call it. Okay. This is called a focus point. You guys with me here so far? You guys have any questions? Is that good? I'm just giving you all this little stuff because I don't know how many of you will be following, reading or watch the video. So this is called the ellipses. If you go sideways, this is called the major axis. And this will call the minor axis. Okay, same thing happens if you flip it around. This will call the major. And this will call the minor. Okay, so there is formulas you need to know here for ellipses. All your major axis is 2a. Okay, and why I say it's 2a, I'm going to sneeze this. It's because that the distance from your vertex to the center is a. So since the major go from one vertex to another vertex, so you got 2a in this case. Okay, your minor is going to be 2b. What is b in this case? B in this case is the distance between the center to the one that goes up. This is B. So this is B, this is B. So, so your minor is B plus B, which is 2B. Same thing happens here. This is B and this is B. So that's why your minor is 2B. And C is the focus point to the center, is C. So, so C is between the center to the focus point. And in order for you to find C, you have to use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals to C squared. But with a little twist, you don't use plus. Okay. So when you have to find your center C, it's that kind of like Pythagorean theorem, but you don't use C, you don't use plus, you use minus. So this is how you figure out your ellipses here. So quite a little bit different and this difficult. It's not easy. You guys doing okay here with all this? And then we got one more conic section left, which is called a hyperbola. So a hyperbola is actually a two parabola, means like this. So a hyperbola can go sideways, and last time parabola you only got one left or one right, but for hyperbola you got both left and right, or it can go up and down both ways. The equation for a hyperbola is given us by x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals to 1. Or it can be y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals to 1. Again, this is from 4.3. Okay. And how do we know which one is which? Which one is going up, down, which one is going sideways? It's very easy also. Before I continue with that, just want to point out to you that how do you know the difference between each one of this? Circles, both of these has to be square. And you got a plus. Okay. Parabola, only one of these variables is square. The other variable is power 1. That's a parabola. Ellipses, both of these has to be square with a plus. But you can tell that this is the same as a circle because both of this is square is plus. So what is the difference between an ellipse and a circle is an ellipse, your A has to be greater than B. So if your A is equals to B, then your ellipse will become a circle. Okay, so if these two numbers are exactly the same, 10 and 10, then you get a circle. But if you get 10 and 8 or 10 and whatever number beside 10, then you guys will get an ellipse. Okay, a hyperbola, you also got square on both sides, but you use a minus sign. Okay, you use a minus sign. So these are all plus, this is all plus. This one has no plus and minuses because they are parabola. This one you see a minus sign here. So that is your hyperbola here. So it depends on which one is the positive. You know that this term is a positive term, right? And then this term is a negative term. The one that have a positive term is where it goes. So for example, this one is on the x-axis because the positive is on the x. Okay. So your hyperbola in this case will be going sideways on the x-axis. For the other one, because it has your positive is a y square, so it's going to be on the y-axis. So your parabola will go up and down. You guys with me here so far? Again, as usual, when you have, this is 4.3. If you have 4.4, what you do is all your x change to minus h. So 4.4 is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Not plus, minus. Cannot be plus here. So hyperbola has to be negative. And then this is still a underneath it, a squared and b squared equals to 1. And then this is the same thing, you just put y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals to 1. So I just want to point out to you guys here that these two are very similar. And this rule, if you see ellipse say a has to be greater than b has to be greater than 0, right? This rule says a has to be greater than 0, b has to be greater than 0. That's it. It doesn't say that a has to be greater than b. Okay, I just want to point out again that for hyperbola, a and b doesn't matter who is big, who is small. Okay, but ellipses, a and b, you have to figure out a has to be bigger than b. But this one, the only says your a has to be positive, your b has to be positive, but doesn't share. That means that it can be, a can be small, b can be big. The only determinations for hyperbola is which term is positive. If your x term is a positive term, you go sideways. If your y term is a positive term, you go up and down. Okay. So a hyperbola, again, last time we got all this center, radius, and so on. So a hyperbola has to know your center. So center is where it's right in the middle between your hyperbola, your hyperbola here. This is your center here. And then you also need to know your vertices. Your vertices is the one that cross on the same line, okay, on the same line of your center. Okay, they all line up very nicely. And then you also need to know your foci. So your foci has to be inside here. Focus point. So what do you notice when you see your center, your vertices, and your foci is they all line up in one same row. And if the x is positive, they line up on the x-axis. If y is positive, they will line up on the y-axis. Okay, so we got center, vertices, foci, which is the same thing as the ellipse, but then you also need to have one more, asymptote. So for hyperbola, you have to figure out asymptote. This asymptote is where you need to draw a straight dashed line. And this dashed line will pass your center. So this line is what we call as your asymptote line. And when you guys want to draw me a vertex, hyperbola, you need to draw me the asymptote line here, because this tells us how wide the parabola is. So sometimes if your asymptote line is very, very tiny like this, then your hyperbola has a very narrow curve on it. But if your asymptote is really wide, then you have a really wide hyperbola like this. So every time when you draw a hyperbola, you need to draw your asymptotes. So how do you figure out your asymptotes here? It's very easy, actually. It's not too bad. Is you figure out a box, and this box is exactly what you do your A and B in your ellipse. So every time when you do it, this is your center. So this is your A. Again, what is A? A is the distance from the center to your vertex. Okay, this is your vertex here. Okay, and then you need to know your B. So B is kind of like a minor axis that you guys did in ellipse. So what you do once you know your A and B, you draw a box. So you draw a box where from center to the vertex is your A and center up there is your B. And then what you do next is, in order for you to draw the asymptotes, you just connect one end of the box to the other end. So you draw your box. It will cross through the center. And then you cross through the center here. So this is how you draw your finding your asymptote is doing that way. Last time when you find your focus point, you will use a squared minus b squared equals to c squared. But this time your focus point is a squared plus b squared equals to c squared. So it's exactly as your Pythagorean theorem. Okay. So does anyone have any questions here so far with this hyperbola, ellipse, parabola, circle before we talk about this question? So we're doing good. And I'm gonna save this. So I will put this in D2L. I know it's icky, but conic. What? Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. All right. So so I'm gonna open a new one, and we're gonna do this question number 26 here. All right. So this is a semi-elliptical arc. What's a semi-elliptical arc means is half of your ellipse. It's a tunnel. So if you guys go through a tunnel of, when you drive through a tunnel, so this is what it looks like. It has a major axis of 42, and the height of the center is 10. Okay, so so the major axis is 42. So usually when you have to draw this, that means from here to here, the distance is 42. And then the height to the center, the height, this is center. The height to the center here is 10. So that means this is your elliptical here. So can someone tell me what is your graph will looks like if you draw this one out? Does that looks like A, B, C, or D? Anyone? Yep. Oh, you guys have different numbers. B, D, A. Watch carefully. Watch carefully. Look at my picture. Is that A, B, C, D? This is A. This is B. This is C. This is D. Which one is correct? And you can tell very easily by one thing is your height. The height is 10, right? So which one here give you the height is 10? It's gonna be B. How do they get 21? Does anyone know how they get 21 here? Anyone know how to figure out 21 in here? No, the number 21. Yes, you divide by 2 because the whole thing is 42. So when you divide by 2, this is where you get 21. And because it's on the left side, this is negative. Yep, you guys are good. So this is the right answer for this. Now we need to do your, we need to figure out the question B is figure out your equations of a semi-elliptical arc. So the equation of a semi-elliptical, oh, by the way, is this going, is your elliptical going this way or going that way? Is that the first one or second one? Which one is the correct elliptical for this? Is that the first one that goes sideways on the x-axis, or is it going to go up and down on the y-axis? Which one is the correct one? This is going to be the first one. How do we know it's first one? Is because this is longer than him. See, this one is longer than that. If this is your x is longer than your y, it's going to be the first one. And the formula we have in this case will be x squared plus a squared plus over a squared, y squared over b squared equals to 1. So does anyone here know what is your A and your B in this case? The longer one is your A. So this is your A. So A in this case is not 42, A is 21. B is a shorter one, so it's 10 in this case. So what do you do here is you plug all this into this equation. So you will get x squared over 100 because A is not 100. Sorry, not 100. A is 21, right? So it's 21 squared. What is 21 squared? 21 times 21. 441. plus y squared is y squared. B will be 10, so 10 squared is 100 equals to 1. So is this the correct equation for B? Is that how we do question B? This is the equation. Then we'll talk about this one later on. Is this a correct answer? No. This is not the correct answer. Does anyone here know why that is not the correct answer? Anyone know why this is not? Yes, you're correct, Ryan, because this question is only for semi-elliptical. This is for the whole elliptical. So what do you need to do here is you solve for y. Sorry, you solve for, not this way. I am so sorry. It's this way, right? So you have to solve for x. Okay, so how do you solve for x? So you have to solve for x here. So in order for me to solve for x, first thing is I have to get rid of this. So I just move this whole term to the other side. So I got x squared over 441 equals to 1 minus y squared over 100. And then I multiply 441 to this side. I'm not gonna distribute it, I just multiply it. And then what we do here is we take the square root of him. Now every time when you take the square root of him, you got plus and minuses. So you get it with x here. So this plus and minuses is determination of which semi-elliptical you pick. If you pick the plus of it, you're taking the top part of it. If you do the minus side, you do the bottom part of it. Now, since this question is on the above your x-axis, so we will pick the top part. So we will not use the minus sign here because it's on the, we are talking about above the ground, so not underneath the ground like this. So the next thing we need to do is simplify a little bit more on this equation. As we know that 441 is a perfect square of 21, right? Because just now we just do 21 times 21. So this 441 can be taken out. So what we have in this case is 21 square root of 1 minus y squared over 100. Okay, so this is where you put in your equation here. X equals to 21 square root multiply 21 square root of 1 minus. So this is the answer for question B. And then now the question is asking for y is greater than or equals to something, right? So how do you figure this one out? You're looking at your graph. Since this graph is above your x, okay, since it's above your x, so your y in this case has to be greater than or equals to 0. Okay, so this means that your line is above your x-axis. If sometimes when an elliptical can go above like this, and let's say this is 6, then this will be y in this case should be greater than or equal to 6. Okay, so it depends on where your semi-elliptical is. If your semi-elliptical is halfway up there, then it's 6. If your semi right here, for this case, is right on 0, then this will be 0. Okay, so this is how we do question B in this case. And now we're going to talk about question C. So what question C is asking is, if you are driving a moving truck that has the width of 10 feet and a height of 11 feet, will the moving truck clear the opening of the arc? So what we're going to do here is that your width is 10 feet. So you got a moving arc, moving truck is 10 feet. So this is a one-way. If you read through this is actually a one-way road. So when you drive through a one-way road, you're going to put in the middle. So your truck will be like this. So this is your truck. You're going to not going on the side, right in the middle. And this truck has a width of 10 feet. So from here to here, the width is, the width is 10 feet. And the height is 11 feet. So the question is asking, can this truck goes through this tunnel? So as you guys know that last time, how do we know it's no? It's 211 is too high. So what we do is we just plug in a number to figure out this. So what do we plug in this case is depends on your x-axis or your x value. So your x value in this case is 5. Okay. So when you have, how do I get 5 is half of 10 because you drive on the middle. So what we do is we plug x to become 5 into this equation. And then figure out is your y is greater than 11 or not, because if it's more than 11 then it's no good. That means you cannot drive through it. So 5 equals to 21 square root of 1 minus y squared over by 100. So you kind of like figure this one out. So I'm going to divide 21 over here to get rid of him. And then because of the square root, I will square both sides so that this is gone. So I got 25 over 441. Better 441 that we have. 1 minus y squared over 100. Or you actually can plug it into this equation. It's even quicker. Okay. And then I will subtract 1. So 25 over 441 minus 1 equals to negative y squared over 100. So this I can change it to 441. So what I'm trying to do here is trying to figure out, can we kind of track those in. So in this case, it's 25 minus 441. So that will give me negative 416 over 441. And then you have the negative y squared over 100. And don't forget, because you got negative on both sides, you can cross them up to become positive. So the negative no longer. And then what do I do next is the 100. I multiply it here. So I multiply this by 100. So I'm going to use my calculator. So 416 times 100 divided by 441. You got an icky number, and then you need to take the square root of it because you got a y. So you take a square root of this fellow. So this is square root of him. This is 9. So y in this case can only take 9.712 feet. So that means that if your truck is having your height of the truck is 9.72 or less, then or less than that, then you can drive through it. But since your height is 11, which is way greater than that, then your answer in this case is no. So some of you can kind of use your common sense, right? Some of you will say, this is 10. I mean, how can an 11 height? This is only 10. Your height is 11, definitely is right here. So some of you use common sense to figure out, oh, no, this definitely not moving, not able to move in. But what happens if this is 9 or 8 or 9.5? Then you have to figure out, because 11 is definitely no. But some of you might get 9.5 or so. If it's 9.5, then your answer is yes. So if you are 9.7, that is the height that you can go in. Anything less than that is good. Anything above than that is no good. You guys doing all right here so far with this question 26? Does anyone here has more questions for me? 4.4 will wait. Let's do 4.3 first. Anyone okay with 4.3 before I move on to 4.4? Yes, question 19 is one of them. Anyone? Okay, good. So we're going to move on to 4.4 here. If you do, you can stay after class and we talk about it. So when you do 4.4, question number 19. Yep, this one. Again, this is also in your instructor notes. If you go all the way to at the very end, to 4.4, the very last page. This is question 10. So those students who doesn't know, and it's exactly the same thing, okay? Just the different numbers here, okay? So I'm gonna do this again. So for this question 4.4, I'm gonna get a new one here. So number 19 is asking us to create a standard form equation given us this parabola. So the question is given us parabola is 48 feet above the ground. The picture is drawn. And the water strikes at the point of 10√30. So this location, this coordinates right over here is 10√30. So this is a parabola. And this parabola, if you draw it, it looks something like this. Again, you only take half of it. That means we don't want this one. You guys with me here? Just want to figure out, I'll tell you what's going on. So, so this is actually your vertex. And your vertex in this case is 0.48. Why I know it's 0.48 is because it is 48 feet above the ground. And this is 10√30 given to us. Okay, so this is an parabola. Can someone tell me what kind of formula should we use for this parabola? Is that x squared equals to 4py or y squared equals to 4px? This is very important. This is where a lot of students in my test, they got it wrong. It's because they used the wrong formula. And if you use the wrong formula, everything is wrong. That's the reason why. And I told you before, if your parabola is open upward or downward, which one is square? X or y squared? Yep, you guys are correct. X squared is what we're using. And your parabola is open sideways, we use y squared. So this is wrong. This one is no good. I'm going to strike it out. This is wrong formula. So if you use this formula, bye-bye. If you use this formula, it's also wrong. Can someone tell me why this formula is wrong also? So these are all things, a lot of students, when they do this, they are like, oh, what's going on? This is why I'm telling you. This is not negative, not half, and kind of, yeah, we'll talk about that later on. This is where your vertex is at 0, 0. But this vertex is not at 0, 0. So you have to use the formula that looks like this. X minus h squared equals to 4py minus k. So what do we do here is, yeah, then we talk about half, Ryan, you're correct. We talk about half. Okay, yep. So your vertex is HK. Don't forget your vertex is HK. So we got H, we got K. We need to find P. So that if you know how to find P, and then we'll take the half of it, we take a square of it, then we'll figure it out later on, which is not too bad later on for the half. So my question to you is, how do you find P? The H and K is given to us because we need to know H and K, which we found out your vertex. But we also need to know P. Because if you know P, then you got question A done. So can someone tell me how you find P in this case? Very good, Ryan. You substitute 10√3 to your X and you substitute 0 to your Y. You use this coordinates point to substitute to your X and Y, and you got H and K from the vertex, you can solve for P. So this is usually what they always do in my test is they won't provide you P, or they don't provide you HK, they might provide you P. So it's kind of like one way or the other. So in order for you to do this, you have to use substitutions to find it. So X in this case is 10√3. H is 0, so that's good. We do not need him, so we square it. For P, we had to solve for P here. Y in this case is 0, so that's good. Minus K, K is 48. Okay, and now you need to solve for P here. Does anyone know how to square a 10√3? Anyone know what happens when you square a 10√3? It's a number. Yep, this is actually 10 square is 100, And then root 3 squared is 3. So 100 times 3 is 300. Okay. And then we need, what is 4 times negative 48? 4 times negative 48. So, oops, sorry. 4 times 48 negative. So this will give me negative 192 P. Then you just divide by negative. This is like solving equation. So what is that going to be? 300 divided by 192. Negative 1.5625. So this is your P in this case. Okay. You guys all right here so far? So now I plug this into this equation now. X squared, because my H is 0. 4 times this, so you just multiply this by 4, because that's your P. 6.25. It's a negative, don't forget the negative, 6.25. Y minus K, K is 48. Okay, and then as what Ryan says, because we take half of it, so you just take the square root of this fellow. And leave it at it, don't foil it out. So X, again, you have plus and minuses. So which one should we take, plus or minus in this case? Again, we are taking this side, not this side. So this side will be positive because it's on the positive side. This side is a negative side. So in this case, we just need to take the positive side. So your answer in this case should be X equals to square root of negative 6.25 Y minus 48. Okay. See if they take it or not. I'll put it in here and see. X equals to, let's see if you take it or not, negative 6.25. Sometimes they don't take it. Y minus 48. See if they like it or not. Nope, they don't like it. Let's see what happens in this case. Let's get rid of that. Let's do one more time, but instead of doing that, I put an X square here. There, I'll try one more time with this one. Sometimes they don't want, I don't know why these questions, they didn't take the half of it. Yep, see, I told you. I kind of know what's going on already because, you know, I teach this class many times. The same question. So what happens, Ryan? They don't take a half of it. They take the whole thing, which is wrong, I know. So in this case, for this question, you do not even need to worry about taking the square root of it. Just give me that X form, X squared form. You guys all right here? Okay. Questions with A before we do with B. B says that if the pipe is moved 12 feet up, find the equation that represents the path of the water. So what you do now is this pipe, you move 12 feet. So that means that your vertex is going to be at that. Your vertex will be at 0.60 because you are moving, the pipe is moved 12 feet. So the question is asking is, find the equation that represents the path of water. So it's kind of the same thing. So you repeat the whole thing, this is still 10 root 3 over, so you still repeat, you still use 10 root 3 0 as this water here. But now your K is 60. So this one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have to redo the whole process again, okay? So this one is still 300, because 10 root 3 squared is 300. 4p times we don't use negative 48 now, we use negative 60. So you kind of repeat what you guys did here. And then a calculator is, this is 240, so it's 300 divided by negative 240. That's your P, because 4 times 60 is 240. So 300 divided by 240, negative 1.25. So then you plug it into this equation, you become x squared equals to negative 1.25 times 4, right? That'd be 5. So it's negative 5 y minus 60 now, not 48. So this equation will be x squared minus 5 x squared equals to negative 5 y minus 60 instead of 48. Oh, that is wrong. The path of the water. Why this is wrong? That is weird. This is the P that we found, yeah. The pipe is moved 12 feet up. That means become 60. Then the equation might not drop into this. Find the equation. Find the coordinates where the water strikes. So it's not the same equation then. Huh, that was weird. Let me see what's going on here. This one is a weird one. See if that I just used by the same one as okay. All right, so things are gonna get a bit easier then. So so we don't use all this. You just need to switch your coordinates from 48 to 60. Oh, okay, so that's gonna be easier to find. And then next you so yeah, so what you do here is you just need to change the 48 to 60 because you move 12 feet high up above. And then finally, you just need to figure out what is the coordinates that it strike the ground here. So when it strikes on the ocean, means that your y is 0. Yeah, your y is 0. So for this case, for question C, you just, because when it strike, is it x0 or y0? Let me think. When it strike on the ocean, that means that, yeah, your y is 0. Because if you look at the one that is strike on the ground, your y coordinates is 0. So what you do here is you take this equation, x squared equals to negative 6.25 times negative 60, because your y is 0 in this case. So what we do here is calculate it. 6.25 times 60, and then you take the square root of it. So x in this case, they want it nice. So x in this case is a square root of 375. Now you need to use the, I think it can goes by 25. Let's see, 25 goes in there, 15. Yep, so this is 25 times 15. And this is 5 root 15. So your coordinates in this case will be 5 root 15, 0. 5 square root of 15 with a 0 next to it. Yep. So this is how we do the last part, is you just put C into it. All right, this is done. Questions you have on this question number, on this section? Anyone have any questions on this 4.4? Now, when you do this section 4.4, what I really want to concentrate on is like a question like, this is all nicely, because this is in your test. So I'm going to concentrate more on, because this one, they all nicely, they say this is ellipse, right? They all say this is circle, this is so on. But usually in the test, I won't tell you what it is. You have to figure out your own. Yeah, like this question number 27. Okay. So like question number 27 is what you get in my test. So please pay attention here. Let's do something. Yeah, 27. The reason why I say I want to concentrate on this kind of questions because you doesn't know what kind of conic section is this. And this kind of questions in your test also worth 10 points. So in your midterm, there are two big questions. One is on 4.2 where you do your rational, where you have to find your vertical and your asymptotes and all these zeros and all the end behavior that we did last week. Now, this week, doing conic, these kind of questions will be coming out and it's worth 10 points. So imagine 12 and 10, that's 22. That's a third of your test. 1/3 of the test is there. So make sure that I'm going to tell you how we do these kind of questions because again, it's 10 point words. In order for us to do this kind of questions, you need to do completing the square. Okay, so you need to know how to do completing the square. So first thing what I usually do here in this part is I will do separation. I will put all the x first, then followed by the y, and then the equal sign, and then I'll put all the numbers on the other side. So for this question number 27, I will put all my x's in one side. So x squared minus 6x. And then all the y's on the other side, plus, don't forget the plus is very important. This plus. So those students who anyone know why I say the plus is very important? And then the 9 and move over become negative 9. So does anyone here know why this plus is very important? This is something again, this is test. I'm talking about your test, your midterm. A lot of students, I can put minus sign here, I can put plus sign here. Yes, Ryan, you're correct. This plus sign is to determine between an ellipse and a hyperbola or circle. Because when you have a plus sign, means either it is a circle or ellipse. So if you have a plus sign, this is either a circle or an ellipse. But if you have a minus sign in this on a y square, then it's going to be a hyperbola. So that's the reason why that this plus sign is very important. Okay. So this is your first step. Okay. Second step is your x squared and your y squared has to be 1, your leading coefficient. In this case, we have it. Okay. What happens if your leading coefficient is not 1? Then you have to factor the number out. Okay, you have to factor it out. So if you have 4 in here, then you have to factor the 4 out. Okay, I will give you an example. I think that's underneath. There's a few more examples. So this is done. So this is good 1. And then next, you take the middle term, you divide it by 2, and you square it. This number you have to add to the both sides of the equation. Okay, so what do I do here is, and you have to do it twice, 1 for x and 1 for y. So if you look at x, the middle term in this case is -6. So what do you do with -6 is you have to divide this by 2 and you square it. So this is actually give me a +9 because 6 divided by 2 is 3, square is 9, and I have to add 9 on both sides. And you have to do the same thing on the y value, but the y value, the middle term is not -6, it's 4. So you take 4 divided by 2 and you square it. So this is also 4. So you add the 4 to both sides. So you actually have to do it twice, 1 for the x, 1 for the y. And then the third step is these 3 terms that you have here is we call a special trinomial. Because if you factor it, it will become a perfect square trinomial. And this will be x. And this number is half of your b. So if you take this -6, you divide by 2, that's where you get it. Okay. Same thing happens on this side. These 3 terms, but this is y terms. And this is half of your 4, the middle term, which is 2 squared. And then over here, you just add the numbers. 9 and 9 will cancel out here, so you get 4. Now, this is still not the equation in the standard form because all equation in oh, this is good news. This is going to be equation of a standard form here now. So can someone tell me, is this a circle or is this an ellipse? Okay. This is, Ryan is very good. This is a circle. Ryan, why you say this is a circle? Which is correct. This is a circle, not an ellipse.
I believe it's because it's not equal to 1. It's equal to 4, which would be the radius.
Yes. Even though if you want to make it equal to 1, you divide this by 4, which this will become 1. And you find out that A in this case and B is the same. So if they are the same, then it is going to be a circle. Okay. So your equation in this case, don't need to divide by 4 actually. It's going to be the whole x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals to 4. You don't need to make it equal to 1. So, and this is a circle. Yep. Next, the graph of it. So when you draw this graph, you have to figure out your center, because circle needs 2 things, center and radius. So does anyone know where is a center at? If I have this equation with the 4 next to it. Forget, this is your H, this is your K, this is your center. So it's 3, negative 2, very good. And your radius is what? Don't give me 4. 4 is wrong. What's the radius in this case? It's the square root of 4, right? Don't forget to make a square root. So which is 2 in this case. So the only that looks like a circle graph to me, this one is not circle, this is ellipse. So this is the circle graph, right? This one is circle. And they're asking you for the translation. What's the meaning of a translation? Means the center. So usually it's at 0, 0. So you move 3 to the right and 2 down, right? Because negative 2, you go down. So you go down 2 units and right 3 units. So this is the correct one. So you go down 2 units because negative 2 means you go down, and 3 is to the right. Yep. So this is how we do this question. But usually in the test, I don't ask you for this. I will ask you for center, radius, and then after that you graph it. Again, your graph is not multiple choice like this. So it's 3, negative 2. This is your center. And then the radius is 2. So you go up 2, down 2, right 2, left 2. So your circle will look something like that. I don't know why it looks so weird like that one, but it looks more on this one. That's definitely not the right. So you guys with me here? Questions so far with this? Now I'm going to do 29. What last one then? If you guys need to go, you can go. I know I spend a bit more time. The reason why I spend a bit more time is because these are worth 10 points in your test. And a lot of you guys will panic when you see 10 points, like, what's going on here? So what you do first, again, for question 29 is like I just told you before, x on one side, y on one side, equal, and then a number on this side. And you can tell this is a plus, so it's going to be either a circle or an ellipse, okay? So what you do in this case, separate them. So 4x squared plus 32x. And then y is over here. 3y, positive 3y squared. This is important, as I told you. Minus 12y. And then I move the 75 over there to become negative 75. Now, last time we did an example, the 4 is no longer, there's 1 in here, but this time we have a 4. So what you need to do with this 4 and this 3 that you see here is you have to factor it out. Okay, so factor the 4 out. So you will get x squared plus 8x. This, you have to factor the 3 out. So you get y squared minus 4y. And this is still negative 75, no change. And then next thing is you take your b term and divide it by 2 and square. So 8 over 2 and square. So this is 16. So you add 16 here. Remember last time when you guys do on the previous question, you also add 16 here, right? It's like an equation. If you add something on the one side, you also have to add the same thing on the other side, right? But this is wrong. We guys good. Wow, you guys either watch my videos or something else. Yes, because you have to multiply this by 4. Yes, Parker. These are the questions that I would like to ask in your midterm, which is in October. Because a lot of students just put 16 here without multiplying by 4. Parker, you are correct. So what is 16 times 4 is? 64. You have to put 64 here. Otherwise, everything is wrong. I do not need to check. Everything is wrong after this. Same thing, you do the same thing here. Middle term is 4, -4, divided by 2 and square it. So that will give me 4. Again, you cannot add 4 on this side. This is also wrong. What should we do here? Parker, you know what you do? You are good. 12, yes. And 12 came from 3 times 4 here. And then then I've told you that these 3 terms is a special trinomials. So you still have the 4 in front. X plus half of 8, which is 4 squared, plus 3. Y minus half of 4 is 2. And then this, you just need to use a calculator to add them up. So it's 64 plus 12 minus 75. This is exactly 1. Now, this is the one that a lot of students ask me during the homework, because I have a lot of students. This, as you know that when you do this, okay, by the way, is this a circle or is this an ellipse? Is that a circle? Because it's a plus, we know it's a circle or ellipse, right? So is this a circle or is this an ellipse? Anyone? No one? Circle or ellipse? Okay, this is an ellipse. Ryan, can you tell me why, or tell everyone, not just me, why you pick ellipse here?
Sorry, just getting my stuff straightened out. Just because it's modified by the factors in front. This one was
you are correct. Yep.
Okay, yeah,
that is correct because of the factor in front of these numbers. Okay. Usually a circle, if you have a factor in front here, they will cancel out very nicely. So usually circles are they don't have this number in front here. I just want to point out to you. Once you got this number in front, then it's an ellipse. But if you remember ellipse, this is something like x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals to 1, right? We got the 1, we got the square, but we need to make this as a squared and b squared. So how do we do that in this case? This is the one that a lot of students ask me. How do you know what is your a and b? Because if you know your a and b, then you know the foci, the vertices, and all those goodies. So what you do is you have to make this as a fraction. So what do you do with, if you have a 4 in front like this? So what do you do is you make it as fraction, 1 over 4. So this 4 will become a quarter. That 3 that you see there will become 1/3. So now my question to you is, which one is bigger, a quarter or a third? Because you need to know your a and b. Don't forget, your a has to be bigger than b. So who is bigger, a quarter or a third?
Third is A.
Yeah. So this, is that A? Because this is bigger, right? So if what a third is bigger is A, and then this is B. If you do this in your test, this is also wrong. Does anyone know why this is wrong? I'm doing all this for you guys because this is a common mistake I found in your test.
Because
There's
those
a
are
lot of
sorry, because those are both squared. So
you are correct. These are both squares. Okay. So you do need to take the square root. So B in this case, the square root is nice, which is 1/2. Because square of 1 is 1, square of 4 is 4. But A is not nice. It's going to be 1/√3. Okay. Which is going to be √3/3 if you rationalize this. So now, so we have our, oops, sorry. Minimize that follow-up. There you go. So this is the equations that you have to type in here. I don't know. I think this is what we do. So let's type the equation here. This is going to be a long type. X minus X, where's my plus 4 square, and this is 1/4 plus, it's a long type, x something, oh not x, y. Where's y minus 2 squared. Minus 2 squared, and this is 1/3 equals to 1. Don't forget to put equals 1. A lot of students in the test forget to put them equals 1. Bye bye. This is an ellipse. Okay. You guys doing okay here? Let me ask you, let me add something here because, so if this is over 5 and this is over 6, let's say you got something already like this, over 5 and over 6, then this will become 5/4. And this will become 6/3, which in this case is 2. Okay, so make sure you guys know if you have something over, then this 4 will become its denominator. Okay. Can you tell me, I'm going to erase all this 6 and 3 that we have here because let's just add on. Can someone tell me, is this elliptical going across on the x-axis or going to be on the y-axis by looking at this? Good, you guys are good. You guys are really good. Because since this is bigger, this is your A. Your A is underneath your Y, so this is going to be on the Y-axis. Yep. That's correct. That's the reason why I'm going to point out here, because if you think this is bigger, you put A here, then a lot of people think it's X-axis and everything is wrong. Okay, so that's the reason why that you need to know who is bigger here. Okay, so your graph will look something like this. So what is your center of this graph? Anyone know the center? Will be -4, 2. So that means this center is at -4, 2. Okay. And do you know how to find your vertices? Now, as you guys know, they're all in the same line here. That means that you will still get -4. Because they all are on a -4 part. So this one is where you go up and down. So how much up and how much down do you do? It depends. Yeah, you plus minus A. Yes, so you do 2 plus A. A is not 1/3. This is another students do. It's not 1/3. It's √3/3. So this is 2 plus √3/3. And this will be 2 minus √3/3. So this is how you figure out your vertices. How do you figure out your foci? You have to find C. And in order for you to figure out C, you use a Pythagorean theorem. A squared, instead of plus, is minus. B squared is equal to C squared. Okay, so you use a Pythagorean theorem, but instead of plus, it's minus. The good news is A squared, you can use exactly him, because this is A squared. And B squared is this, 1/4. So that will give me 12 denominator, 1/12, because this is 4 minus 3. But this is C squared, so I take the square root of it. So this is actually a square root of 12 over 12, which if you reduce is 4 at 4. 2 root 3, 12 is 4 times 3. 2 root 3 over 12, which is root 3 over 6. So in order for you to figure out a foci, your foci is somewhere here. This is your foci. And as what Ryan did just now, you plus minus C. So you still have a -4, 2, because you're 2, plus minus C. C in this case is root 3 over 6. So this is how you figure out your foci, your center, and your vertices, because these are every single thing. And then after you draw the graph out, which is something like this. So this whole thing that I just did right here for you guys worth 10 points in your test. Just one question like this. Okay. So make sure you guys know how to do this kind of questions. It's very important. And watch for this plus sign, because what happens, this is something I just want to ask. What happens if this is a negative sign? I know it's going to be a hyperbola. Okay. So my question to you is, do you need to factor out a negative here? Yes, you do. Do you know what happens when you factor a negative out from a negative? This is no longer negative. This is the positive. So this is one thing that I will want to point out to you guys. If this is a hyperbola where it is a negative, right? Because we know hyperbola is negative here. When you factor the negative out, this negative will become positive. Now remember last time over here we add 12 because 3 times 4 is 12. You no longer add 12, you have to subtract 12. So this is something that I want to point out to you guys. If you have a hyperbola in this case, is yes, you have to factor the negative out. This fellow have to change sign. And this is no longer plus, this is a negative here. Used to be plus because it's plus. You guys with me here? So what do you think, which one will come in midterms? Ellipses or hyperbola? So it's going to be one of those two, I can tell you that. Only one, either ellipse or hyperbola. If you got hyperbola, be careful with this negative sign I'm talking about just now, okay? These are the few things you need to watch out with if it's hyperbola. If it's ellipse, you just make sure you understand how to do those, just flipping around. All right, so that's it for today. So make sure you guys know how to do all this work. It's very important, big points in your test. I'm going to stop recording.